Hello all you amazing people of the interwebs, welcome to Ctrl-Alt-Bob. As always, I'm Bob. And today we're finally going to be building that computer that I mentioned way back when. So this is actually going to be a birthday present computer for a young lady. Everything is kind of a pink theme. So what we're going to be using, we got the Rainbow Flash F4P from DIYPC because it was the only pink case I could find, and it's kind of cool. It's got some RGB, so we're going with that. We do have a pink generic keyboard. We're going with the Corsair Vengence RGB Pro. We're going to throw in 16 gigs. We've got a generic mouse. We've got the Razer Kraken headphones in pink. What do we got here? We got the 10th gen Core i5 unlocked. This is the 10600K. We've got, from the other computer, we are reusing the Gigabyte 750 watt hard drive, wow. Power supply, the 80 Gold Plus. For the motherboard, we have the MSI Mpg Z490M Gaming Edge Wi-Fi motherboard. Why did I pick this motherboard? Mainly just for the Wi-Fi. I didn't want an external Wi-Fi dongle, and this has built-in Wi-Fi 6 capabilities. Yay! Graphics card, of course, we're putting in the 2080 Ti that I took out of my computer. CPU cooling, we have the NZXT Kraken X53. And for hard drives, we've got the Western Digital Black 1 terabyte. That's going to be the boot drive. That is an M.2 drive. And then we've got a solid state 2 terabytes. Yeah, 2 terabyte solid state drive. That'll be for her games and backups and pictures and all that good stuff. So today we are filming in my kitchen because there's a little more room to work here. Hopefully this works out well. Hopefully the dogs don't go nuts. If they do, we'll work around it. But for now, let's start getting all this stuff open. That is one very pink case. First thing we're going to want to do with the case, get the side panels off. Ooh, most cases nowadays just have thumb screws. Pretty simple. This is a tempered glass side. Pretty simple. If we take a look at the back, all the fans that are currently installed are all daisy chained onto here. So very easy, you can just plug it right into a power outlet. Once we get the power supply in, on here, everything is labeled. Power switch, reset switch, power LED positive negative, hard drive LED positive negative, HD audio, what's this one? USB, what's this one? USB 3. Very simple, very easy. Everything tells you where it's gotta go. So you just match it up with the motherboard. Speaking of which, that's the next step. So this is our motherboard that's going in, the MSI Edge. So before we actually put the motherboard into the computer, we want to put on as much as we can without impeding any of the screw holes. So where we got to screw it in. screw it to the motherboard. Gotta leave those accessible, everything else can go on. So first thing we want to do is install the CPU. Be very gentle with this, especially if you are working with a Intel instead of AMD, because Intel likes to put all their pins on the motherboard instead of on the chip. Crazy people. So you might be looking at this and being like, where's it go? It's a perfect square. I don't understand. It does actually have a little tiny notch out of it right there, and you can actually line that up with the little tiny notch right there. Just like that. Clamp this bad boy down. Easy peasy. CPU installed. Next, we are going to go ahead and install the Corsair Vengence RGB Pro 16 gigs of RAM. This is, of course, 8 and 8, which equals 16. Now, when you're installing RAM, a lot of times your RAM slots will be numbered. Right here. So this says DIMM A1, DIMM A2, DIMM B1, DIMM B2. Whenever you're installing just 2 DIMMs of RAM, make sure you have one in DIMM A1 and one in DIMM B1. They will work best that way. It may look like that slot right there in the center is perfectly centered, but it's not. One side is farther than the other. Just make sure you're putting it in accordingly. And you should snap right in. Easy peasy. RAM installed. As simple as that. So this guy right here is our M.2 shield. Basically a heat sink for it. So we want to take this off, and next we will install our M.2 drive. This is our little 1 terabyte M.2 drive. Where you are installing it, again, it's got a little notch right there. You can install it with the little notch right there. Just like that. Before you put your M.2 shield back on, make sure that you pull the plastic off of this guy, because this is actually a thermal seal, thermal paste, thermal blockage. And get that lined up nice and straight. Just as a little side note, the black piece that came off the CPU, this is the cover piece. If you do ever have to warranty your motherboard for whatever reason, they will want this. So make sure you hang on to it. So I debated whether or not to mount the CPU cooler now or after I put the motherboard into the computer. It might bite me in the ass, but I'm gonna mount the motherboard now and then do the CPU cooling after. So let's mount a motherboard. So these guys down here are just standoffs, which line up with the holes, hopefully line up with the holes on your motherboard. So it goes in like so, because all your little bits back here are going down here. So next we're going to be installing the power supply. So for this case I had to go dig out a peripheral cable because of those fan cables. So all the fans on the case are using peripheral instead of just plugging into the motherboard like most do. But that's alright, I found one, it was laying around. Problem solved. Power supply is pretty easy. We have the peripheral cable. We have the peripheral cable up here. We have the serial ATA for the hard drive here. We have the PCI Express here for the graphics card or GPU. And then coming out of the power supply directly, we have the motherboard and the CPU cables. To install the CPU cooler, we need to install a mount on the back first. It does come with two different mounts. Basically, one's AMD, one's Intel. Really hard to mess it up. One doesn't fit. The other one does. So before I mount anything, I want to check and make sure I've actually got room. And once I get the fans in there, I definitely do not. So, next mounting option probably going to be on the front. Yeah, okay. Be very careful once you remove the plastic, because now the thermal paste is exposed and you can get it everywhere. So how are we mounting this? We're going like this. That one above that one. So we want to actually have it going like this. I think would be the best configuration. So right now we're just installing the standoffs. Now that we have that mounted, we can worry about getting the fans on there. We are going to have to remove the front of the case to get at these fans, because I need to put longer screws through those in order to mount the radiator. I hate taking off front panels. So one thing I've learned to make this part a whole lot easier, put the screws in first. And then mount your radiator. The radiator's mounted. Now we're going to put it on the fans. They're just basically going in like that. Should be pretty easy. Again, just put your screws in before you mount it. Makes life so much easier. Alright, so we have the pump installed. We have the fans installed, the radiator. I've got everything wired up where it needs to go so far. I did have to remove the RAM in order to get in there and do everything. But since then I have reinstalled it. It was probably a bad idea to have the wires coming out here. Probably would have been better off having them come at the top, but it is what it is. I think next we're gonna do the GPU, which is of course the GeForce RTX 2080 Ti that came out of my personal gaming rig. Very nice and basically still looks brand new. Okay, so we are gonna have to take off a couple of these panels back here. And they just bend and twist off. We have a serious problem. Oh no. So, apparently this is a micro ATX case. Do you see my problem? There is absolutely no way of fitting this card into this case.
Hello.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Sure.
How long is your video card? Okay, change of plans. Since the 2080 will not fit at all in this case, I should have checked that first. I have actually called my sister, who has a 1080 Ti, which should fit. She says it's only 10.5 inches. We have exactly 10.5 inches from the mount to the fan. So it should fit. So we're gonna swap. She's on her way here now. She's gonna bring me that card. I'm gonna give her the 2080 Ti, which is a nice little upgrade she's been hoping for. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and plug in all the USBs and power switch and reset switch and motherboard power, all that good stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and plug that in while she's on her way here. Okay, so let me start off by saying, don't do this, okay? I did manage to score the GTX 1080 Ti from my sister. I traded her, I gave her the RTX 2080 Ti because this thing actually fits. I got it in there. This, however, mounting your fan, your radiator down here is wrong. Do not do this. It will work short term, but it's not a good setup. I do have the Single Fan Corsair in my computer. I'll probably end up switching it out. I'll put the dual NZXT into mine and put the Corsair in here. It should mount up here, no problem. I've done everything else. The only thing I've got left to do is plug in the GPU, put the sides of the case and the front of the case back together, and plug everything in and see what happens. Yay! So let's do that now. So there is no operating system on it yet. I still have to install Windows, but it is up, it is running. It is RGB. I'm gonna do some dark shots of it and everything, show you guys what it looks like. And as for installing Windows and doing all that stuff, well, that's a whole nother video that I don't want to get into because this thing was a pain. So I'll just take some shots, show you guys the finished product. And yeah, maybe I'll do another video on how to install Windows and what to update and install with a brand new build. But for now, I hope you liked it. Enjoy these nice close-ups. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.